Okie dokie, now, excited to show you around this humble abode. Let's first start with the very basics of the interface basics. And we're going to start from the top menu bar right here. Of course, these are all self-explanatory. You know, any file, edit, navigation menu, you have all seen those before, either in Photoshop or even Microsoft Word, for example. The key thing to note about this top bar is that most of what you'll find here can also be found in the main interface section over here. Now, another useful thing about the top bar is, for example, looking for the hotkeys. For example, over here. As you can see, this is my hotkeys. It shows you conveniently, although not conveniently if it blocks your screen, all the hotkeys you can use. And of course, you can also find these by simply hovering over the icons in the main interface over here. For example, I hover over this for a while, eraser, and it shows you, the hotkeys, number 6 for the note pen, etc., etc. Now, the main important menus you want to look out for is basically the boards, tools, and the help. And basically everything else is pretty much very simple. You can just go through these and look at them. For the boards, it's anything that has to do with this timeline over here. Tools, as you can see, all the hotkeys right here, and everything you can find in the main interface as I've explained. And the help, where you can basically learn more, get started, or go through a short generator tutorial. And all these link to their website or YouTube page. But we'll basically cover our own little mini tutorial right here. Now, if you notice that your interface is a little bit slow, you can actually adjust this. So for example, if I draw a stroke, and if your stroke is not as smooth as mine and it's kind of lagging a little bit, I'm gonna Control Z to undo that. You can go over here to Edit and Preferences. And you can see that this is the preference you can set for your entire software itself. The default timing for the board, we'll cover that later. But for now, please scroll down all the way to the end. You can see this thing that says Performance Enhancements. Not what you're thinking, is you just have to uncheck this high quality drawing engine. Essentially, if you can read it right here, it allows you to have a much more efficient drawing mode when you draw. But if you have this checked, it might have a little bit of a lag. For me, it did, so I unchecked this. You don't really need to click on anything. It auto saves your preferences, and then you just close your preference window. Now, how to navigate in Storyboarder? Quite simple. Zoom in and zoom out is your scroll wheel. Press and hold spacebar, pretty much like your Photoshop if you set it out that way, to kind of pan and move your canvas around if you press and hold your left mouse button as well. Now, the drawing tools, if you are confused what these images of these pens and tools look like, you can basically hover over it to find out what this is. I was like, what is this? So just say it's a light pencil. What's number 2? Fill brush pen. Basically just covers everything that you need to know by hovering over it. Pretty self-explanatory and useful. Again, each tool is simply a different type of texturized pen for you to create specific looks. Nothing too crazy. So if I hit 1, I have this, number 2, all that, number 6, and number 7, my eraser. Now the color over here basically essentially shows you your current color being used. So for example, if I hit 1, I can see that my color changes based on the tool that I have. You can actually change this as well. The number below this square is your brush size. So I'm gonna go to something obvious like the pastel, hit 3. I'm gonna increase the size to maybe 100. You can see, whoa, huge there. But if I increase it down, tiny weeny 1. All right. Now the second box for any and most of your tools is your opacity. So let's say if I select this number 5 and I turn this down to 19%, you can see it's slightly translucent. I'm drawing over my elements here and slightly translucent. I'm going to increase the size, just press, hold, and left mouse button, drag to increase it. And if you actually just hover over this, I can show you how to increase it using the angle brackets. But yeah, if I increase this back to 100%, you can see I'm actually drawing opaque lines using my tools. And of course, you can set the color palettes for any of these. So if I click on this once, I can change the color. And these essentially gives you the default templates, which you can also set the color. I find it too confusing, so I'm just going to choose 1. I mean, of course, if you're drawing complex things, then this might be useful. Now, if it's not really obvious, left mouse button, click, hold, and drag to draw anything on the canvas. And if you want to clear this board, it's looking like a big hot mess right now. You basically can just go over here and you just click delete and you can see everything's all gone. Cleared all layers. Thank you very much. Now, if you want to select all, let's say I have something here, you can basically click on this icon right here, and actually you can hit the up angle bracket. I'm just going to click on this actually, and you can move your elements. Now be careful if you have another drawing here. Okay, this is too small. When you click on this, you actually move everything. So it's not a select tool like individual layers as if it's Photoshop. Now if you want to do that, you can actually use the lasso tool to outline whatever, but just so you know, it is not creating a layer for you. So that's essentially what the lasso tool is. And of course, if you want to scale, you just click on this icon right here, and it scales your entire canvas up and down. Now moving on to the right, we have these guide layers over here. It actually shows you what kind of guide it is. Grid guide, center guide, and I believe the next is the rule of thirds guide to allow you to kind of position your drawings better if you would like. And of course we have this as well, which is the onion skin. I'll cover this in detail. Essentially, if you have another board, it allows you to view what was on the previous board. I'm going to actually turn off all my grids. And yes, this button, if you have captions, it's going to show you the captions, but we don't have one, so I'm just going to turn it off. And of course, if you'd like to add more details to this wonderful, beautiful drawing, you can click on this icon and it'll basically open up this shot in Photoshop and update in Storyboarder automatically as it describes here. Now moving on down, you can see the details of the shot to be written here, including the shot generator, which we will go in detail in a later lesson. But for now, if you look at this, we can classify this as a new shot, specify the duration, the dialogue in this frame, action, notes, add an audio file, merge up and down the reference for, again, if you have another board, and of course the set frame rate for your scene. Now, if you click show in folder, it'll basically open this up in a folder where you'll find this image. We'll basically touch on that actually in a later lesson. But for now, this is in general the shot information for each board that you have in your timeline. Speaking of timeline, the timeline is the time length per board to play with, and you can basically switch modes. So you can see I can switch to boards or timeline. The length of your board shows the exact length of your duration right here. And that's the general gist of it. And by the way, if you scroll up here, if you see it says 8.2 line miles, it basically shows you how many miles your lines are worth in this shot right now. So if you hover over this, it'll actually describe how intense this drawing is in your shot. And just to remind you, hey, don't forget, you're just storyboarding, you're not creating art. Again, if anything is confusing, you can check out the help menu and get started. Essentially, it's a FAQ page, and I've also attached a link to this lesson as a resource directly to this page if you need more help. Okay, alright. With that very quick overview of the software down, let's proceed to understanding the director's vision.